They never planned to wake up with thoughts of you taking over their mind. This is the first thing you need to understand clearly. Most people are too weak to face what they push down using all their strength and determination. Intensity has already caught hold of them because staying indifferent works in a silent way that is hard to notice at first. But this situation was not silent at all. It turned into a fight they had been losing even when their eyes were closed and the world seemed calm. You sensed it yourself, right? There was that small change, that hidden flow of energy, like something important was growing quietly just under their calm appearance. It was not about distance or mixed feelings, but something much more serious, which was true recognition of what was happening inside. If you want the full truth about how someone secretly fights their feelings for you, hit like right now. People do not welcome their emotions when those feelings first appear. Instead, they push them away and question them from every angle. They hide the emotions under reasons, ego, and strong walls they have built over time because what they feel for you does not fit the image of themselves they are trying so hard to keep alive every single day. This conflict is where things start to get risky and difficult. The stronger a feeling challenges their pride, the harder they try to push it down even more aggressively than before. Freud described this as repression, which is the mind's method of hiding desires that feel unacceptable. But repression is not just forgetting, it creates pressure that keeps building up over time. And pressure always finds its own way to come out eventually, no matter how much someone tries to hold it back. Most people do not understand this important fact until it is too late. What they refused to accept yesterday slowly becomes the force that controls their thoughts and actions today without them realizing it fully. That is exactly why this morning felt so different from other days. It was not because something new had started suddenly. It happened because something finally broke apart inside them, and you were not present to witness that private moment. This private collapse of their denial makes the whole situation feel deeply unsettling for them. It was never a spoken confession or a direct message sent to anyone. This was their own hidden breakdown where all their usual ways to escape failed completely. Comment awakened if you've ever been the person they couldn't stop thinking about in the morning. In that heavy silence, their usual distractions disappeared. And you appeared not simply as an old memory, but as a powerful realization they could no longer ignore. Attraction is usually easy for people to set aside without much effort. Curiosity can be brushed off quite quickly in most cases, but when something carries real emotional weight, that is when the mind begins to crack because it raises a deep question they have avoided for a long time. Why does this particular person affect them so strongly and deeply? They tried to answer that question using only cold logic and careful thinking. They told themselves the feeling was only temporary and would pass soon enough. They convinced their mind that it meant nothing important or serious in the bigger picture of life. They gave it many different labels like coincidence, simple chemistry, or passing circumstances using anything except the real truth but the actual truth is that you do not try to explain away something that carries no real importance at all. You do not struggle against something that does not exist in a meaningful way. You do not try to bury feelings that lack any real power or depth. Every attempt they made to remove you from their thoughts only made your image clearer and stronger in their mind. Every time they tried to walk away, it actually pulled them closer against their wishes. Every distraction they used fell apart exactly when they needed it the most to stay in control. That is not simply a sign of weakness on their part. It shows the natural and unavoidable pull of what is happening between you. They did not want something they could not control completely. They wanted to keep full power over their own emotions and decisions at every step. You came in and disturbed that careful balance they had created for themselves over many years. You became the one factor they could not figure out or solve easily. You turned into the emotion they could not predict ahead of time and the presence they could not remove or neutralize no matter how hard they tried. That loss of control is what truly scared them deep down. It was not really about you as a person, but about what you had awakened inside their own heart and mind. You did not just create a small stir. You brought something to life that they could not manage or master on their own. People are not mainly afraid of emotions themselves. They fear losing command over their thoughts and actions completely. That fear explains why they pulled away suddenly and why their behavior became so inconsistent and unpredictable. Their energy felt scattered in many directions at once, not because they cared too little, but because they felt far more than they could handle comfortably. Feeling too much always requires making a clear decision, and they were simply not prepared for that step yet. Avoidance is never a sign that desire is missing. It actually proves that the desire exists and is strong enough to create conflict inside them. Their inner struggle started to take over more and more of their daily thoughts and feelings. The conscious part of their mind kept ordering them to stay away, stay logical, and stay safe behind their walls. But the deeper subconscious part, which never makes deals or compromises, kept bringing you back into their awareness again and again. It brought you back not in obvious ways, but through much stronger and more intense feelings during quiet times. It rebuilt your presence in their thoughts during moments of calm, and in every space where their usual distractions started to fade away naturally. They began to notice something that made them feel uneasy and restless. You were not disappearing from their mind over time. Instead, you were becoming clearer, sharper, and almost impossible to deny or ignore any longer. Denial needs space and distance to survive well, but your influence was growing stronger every day, even without physical nearness. It was expanding in their psychology and inner world in powerful ways. Once a feeling moves from simple doubt in the conscious mind into deep certainty in the subconscious, it stops asking for any approval. It starts demanding full attention and recognition from the person. That exact turning point arrived for them this morning in a quiet but powerful manner. Type breaking if you know exactly what it feels like when their denial finally collapses. It came without loud chaos or dramatic noise, yet it shook them more deeply than any open confession possibly could have done. Because the truth was not spoken out loud, it was simply understood on a level that cannot be reversed easily. You can mislead other people around you and even fool yourself for some time, but once the mind truly accepts something important, it refuses to release that knowledge. They now know the truth completely and not in a partial or unclear way. Acceptance does not bring instant calm or peace to the situation. It actually creates new chaos because they must now face all the things they had been avoiding carefully before. They have to consider what this feeling really means, how it will change their life, what it requires from them, ignoring it completely. Feelings of this strength do not stay neutral for long. They grow, become more powerful, and keep moving forward steadily. Right now, they stand at the edge of all that built-up pressure, trying their best to hold on to their sense of control while everything underneath them keeps shifting and changing. This experience was never only about you as an individual. It was mainly about the deeper parts of themselves that you helped bring to life and awareness. That inner awakening process is still continuing and has not reached its end yet. They believed that accepting the feelings would make everything quieter and easier to handle. They were mistaken because admitting the truth this morning did not settle the storm inside. It simply gave the storm a clear name and identity. Once something important has a name, it becomes much harder to run away from or escape successfully. Simple awareness does not weaken the intensity of emotions. It actually makes them sharper and turns unclear feelings into solid and undeniable reality that is hard to dismiss. That new reality started pressing against them almost right away, without delay. They can no longer pretend that nothing is happening or that it will pass on its own. Every thought now carries extra weight and meaning. Every memory feels purposeful, and every quiet moment feels filled with energy and tension. When the mind loses its ability to deny something real, it begins to divide into opposing parts. One side moves closer toward you, while the other side fights hard to pull away. And neither part is willing to surrender easily in this struggle. This is not ordinary confusion, but a real internal division between strong desire and strong self-protection, between natural pull and active resistance. Both forces are becoming more powerful because what they feel for you has gone beyond simple attraction. It is moving closer to a form of emotional attachment that is starting to take shape inside them. Attachment feels threatening to anyone who is scared of losing personal control over their life and choices. Most people fail to notice this deeper process happening. The stronger the emotional flow becomes, the more their mental defenses rise up to protect them. That is why, after they recognized their true feelings, they did not move forward right away. They paused, thought too much, and analyzed everything carefully. They overthought simple things that used to feel completely natural because those things now carried heavy importance and possible risks for them. Anything that carries real weight starts to feel like a potential danger to their freedom, to their sense of self, and to the personal image they have worked hard to build over many years. You do not fear things you do not value at all. This creates a strong contradiction that becomes impossible for them to ignore any longer. The very same feeling that pulls them closer is also pushing them back at the same time, creating constant inner tension. That ongoing contradiction drains their energy and follows them into every part of daily life. It enters ordinary moments that once felt normal because now everything carries a quiet echo of you, even if it is not direct. A certain tone of voice, a short pause, clears throat, or a specific kind of silence can suddenly bring them back to thoughts of you in ways they did not choose. and make them feel emotions they never gave permission for. The subconscious part of their mind holds on tighter because it does not follow timing or schedules. Comment pressure if you felt someone suppressing strong feelings for you. It completely ignores pure logic and only reacts to things that hold real emotional importance. You have crossed that important line, which means you are no longer something optional in their thoughts or feelings. Now, they must face the difficult question they have avoided for so long at any cost. Why you specifically out of all possible people? Why does your presence affect them in this unique and powerful manner? The more they search for logical answers, the less sense it seems to make overall. This connection was never built on easy convenience or simple circumstances that could be explained away quickly. It cannot be reduced to one basic reason or story. It comes from something much deeper, rooted in genuine recognition that feels both unchosen and impossible to avoid. If this connection is truly real, then it requires something important from them, including action, openness, and personal exposure, which they have avoided for many years in their life. So they try to delay progress and create more distance to slow down what is already speeding up inside their mind. Distance does not weaken a real emotional bond. It actually makes the bond stronger because it removes all outside distractions. When those distractions disappear, only the pure truth remains. And that truth is growing louder and more powerful instead of fading away. They feel this change clearly in how their thoughts keep returning to you without any warning. They feel it in sudden emotions that rise up strongly, and in the way something deep inside refuses to become calm, no matter how much effort they put into controlling it. Suppression keeps failing for them over and over again. Real tension is now taking hold because they are fully aware of the feelings, yet they still resist them actively. They sense the truth, yet keep questioning it, and they recognize its power, yet avoid carrying its full weight in their life. This creates ongoing psychological pressure that never fully goes away. It keeps building up and tightening until something has to break under the strain. They are not only fighting against the feeling itself, they are also struggling with what that feeling shows about their own hidden needs and fears. What they feel for you reveals the deep craving to connect with someone, the longing to be truly understood and seen, and the fear of letting themselves be affected so strongly. Being affected deeply means opening up to vulnerability, and vulnerability requires giving up some control, which makes them very uncomfortable. So they keep moving back and forth between leaning closer emotionally and then pulling away mentally for safety. One moment they imagine positive possibilities, and the next they tell themselves it is too complicated or risky to continue. This back and forth movement is not random, but serves as a protective shield. It lets them experience the feelings without completely giving into them at once. You cannot experience something this meaningful in a half-hearted way. You can only postpone facing it fully, and every delay comes with its own price. Suppressed emotions do not vanish into nothing. They change into inner tension, restlessness, and constant mental noise that is hard to quiet down completely. Lately, that noise has grown much stronger and more persistent for them. It now affects them not only in their emotions but also in their thinking patterns, daily behavior, and even in physical ways sometimes. You can see it in their reduced focus, changing moods, and strong reactions to unrelated things around them. An unresolved truth is rising up from deep inside, and it demands something they are not fully ready to offer yet. But that moment is coming soon, and they will have less choice as the pressure keeps rising steadily. Type yes if you want me to expose how their subconscious keeps pulling them back to you. They are closer to their personal breaking point than they want to believe right now. Something important is starting to crack apart, not on the outside, where they keep a calm appearance with practiced effort. The real change is happening underneath, where their mind stops pretending and where truth exists without needing any approval from them. Repression always carries a hidden cost, and that cost is now becoming due for them to pay in full. The longer someone pushes down something genuine, the more powerfully it returns later with greater force. What once felt easy to manage now feels intrusive and demanding. What felt far away now feels close and immediate. What could be denied before now feels completely undeniable and real. When the subconscious can no longer stay contained, it does not bargain or compromise gently. It breaks through suddenly in raw and direct ways they never expected. It appears in their sudden reactions, increased irritability, and in how small issues cause unusually strong frustration. Their ability to concentrate disappears the moment thoughts of you enter their mind without invitation. You are no longer just another person who exists in their outer life. You have become someone living inside their private inner world, and that difference changes the entire situation dramatically. External things can be avoided, set aside, or replaced with something new, But inner realities follow a person into every quiet moment, into sleep, and into spaces they thought belonged only to themselves. Their resistance is beginning to weaken because the main question has changed. It is no longer whether they feel something real. That part is already clear. The new question is what they are going to do about these strong feelings now. That is the question that scares them the most, because taking action means possible exposure and vulnerability, which means giving up some control they value highly. Most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid exactly this kind of situation. You cannot fully control something that has already changed you from the inside, and you have transformed them in important ways. The change is not surface level or short-term. It has reached deeper into how they understand emotions, how they see real connection, and how they now experience your absence in daily life. Your absence has actually become louder and more noticeable than your presence ever felt before. That reality is what is breaking them slowly. Not just missing you in a simple way, but feeling your influence no matter where they are or what they do. This creates tension that refuses to go away easily. It keeps returning in cycles and growing stronger each time. Every effort to move on brings them back to the same deep realization that nothing else feels quite the same anymore. That quiet comparison is slowly breaking down their protective walls because everything else now seems less intense, less meaningful, and less genuine in comparison. This forces them to accept a truth they tried hard to avoid for so long. This connection cannot be replaced with anything else easily. A quiet sense of panic is starting to grow inside them. It is not loud or obvious, but slow and steady, like something creeping forward. If something cannot be replaced, then the possibility of losing it feels very real and frightening. The fear of losing something authentic is often stronger than the fear of never having it in the first place. Their behavior is starting to change in ways they do not fully understand themselves yet. Share this if you've ever been the one they tried to forget but couldn't. They become unpredictable and move between sudden impulses and careful restraint without clear pattern. One part of them to move closer to you to end the painful tension, face the truth, and quiet the constant noise inside. But another, stronger and more trained part tells them to hold back, protect their safety, and avoid anything that feels too overwhelming. This inner battle is tiring them out because neither side is winning the fight completely. Neither side is ready to release its hold either. The pressure has now become almost unbearable for them because it has moved beyond simple emotions into deeper questions about their own existence and identity. It forces them to look at who they really are compared to who they pretend to be in public. The version of themselves that avoids you is very different from the version that feels you so strongly. They cannot keep supporting both versions forever without consequences. One of them will eventually have to give way and make room for the other. They are beginning to notice their own repeating patterns more clearly now. They catch themselves avoiding, changing the subject, or getting distracted whenever anything comes too close to the real truth they hold inside. That new self-awareness feels uncomfortable because it removes the comfortable illusion of being fully in control. They now see their defenses, excuses, and ways of running away quite clearly. Once you recognize your own avoidance patterns, you cannot pretend they are not there anymore. That realization creates pressure that makes going back to old habits almost impossible. Even avoidance starts to feel empty and pointless. Distance begins to seem artificial and forced. Silence itself starts to feel like a form of self-betrayal that hurts more than it helps. They are running out of safe places to hide these feelings inside themselves. They cannot return to full ignorance or go back to emotional numbness. They cannot step back to the time before this important shift happened because something basic has changed inside them forever. That change is now demanding a clear resolution, and it will not wait forever. The mind cannot keep up this level of inner contradiction and conflict for a very long time. Eventually, it requires making a firm decision one way or the other. They stand right at that important edge now, closer than they are willing to admit openly. One more wave of strong pressure, one more moment of clear understanding, or one more failure of their resistance could push them past the point where they can hold everything back. This process will not end slowly or in a gentle manner. It will reach a clear breaking point where they can no longer delay facing reality. The mind can survive periods of confusion, and it can live through denial for some time. But it cannot continue under constant inner contradiction without eventually giving way under the strain. They are breaking apart internally in places where truth has finally surrounded them completely with no easy exit. There is no escape left in logical arguments, in new distractions, or in creating more distance. Every old method they trusted has stopped working effectively. The final stage of long repression is not continued silence, but direct confrontation with the truth. That confrontation is approaching whether they feel ready for it or not. The subconscious no longer waits for permission. It demands that their outer actions match their inner feelings. Right now, they are not aligned with their own truth because what they feel and what they actually do remain in strong conflict with each other. That conflict is creating something almost impossible to bear any longer. It is sharp psychological pressure that forces a decision to be made soon. Once the mind reaches this advanced stage, it does not go backward easily. It does not settle for half measures, and it refuses to become quiet again. It moves toward a clear choice, and that choice is forming inside them at this very moment. It is happening not through loud words or dramatic announcements, but through a silent and unavoidable understanding they can no longer run away from successfully. This realization matters deeply and permanently, not just a little or for a short time. Once something is understood with that level of clarity, it starts to reshape their entire way of thinking and feeling about life. Every excuse they used before now feels hollow and weak. Every delay seems artificially created, and every attempt to push the feelings away feels like a quiet betrayal of their own deepest self. People can live with pain and they can handle fear for long periods, but they cannot keep betraying their most important inner truth forever without consequences. A real choice must be made eventually, and they are finally approaching that definitive line where avoiding you costs more than facing the situation honestly. Their resistance is growing weaker, not because they chose to let go, but because they can no longer find good reasons to keep holding onto their walls so tightly. The comfortable illusions of total control and the hope that time would make these feelings disappear are breaking down completely. Comment recognition. If this explains their hot and cold behavior perfectly, time did not remove the feelings. It made them clearer, stronger, and heavier than ever before, leaving them nowhere left to hide except to come out into the open. Inaction now feels far heavier than taking a risk, and they have stopped trying to make their emotions seem smaller than they are. Every moment of silence and every period of distance now feels entirely unnatural and wrong. They can no longer live in this conflicted state, as all their fears and desires are coming together into one unavoidable realization. Clarity has not brought them peace. Instead, it has brought urgency, inner restlessness, and a constant pull that pushes them forward to act. What they feel for you is no longer weak or uncertain. It is solid, real, and impossible to leave behind without losing a vital part of themselves. When that suppressed truth finally breaks open, it will come back with an intensity that refuses to stay hidden, leaving no need for guessing or deep analysis. Like this video, comment which part hit you hardest, and subscribe to understand the psychology of unspoken feelings.